Right, this is biology lesson 1.04, and we're going to go over our third characteristic of life. I probably should have rethought my numbering structure because now my video numbers and my characteristic numbers are off by one, but oh well. So the third thing that anything that is alive has to be able to do is to use energy. We have to be able to take in organisms that are alive need to be able to take in what they need from their environment. And there's multiple ways we can do that. So we're going to go back over some of those terms that you probably had in like maybe 8th grade science on how we're going to take that nutrition in. And then we're going to use it to make a compound that we're going to talk about. And this compound becomes the coin in the machines of our body. Everything runs off of this structure. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So let's go back to how that nutrition can come in. Over here, we have an energy pyramid that shows you the flow of energy. And at the bottom, we have primary producers. So a producer is obviously somebody who's going to produce something. And on this side, I have a term called photosynthesis. And I'm going to rewrite that. It's kind of small. Photosynthesis, and over here I have chemosynthesis. These are both ways of creating macromolecules, and the word synthesis means to make, but we're doing it different ways. So photosynthesis is going to create macromolecules from, you remember from 8th grade? From the sun, from light. So here we're going to create macromolecules from the sun. Chemosynthesis can also create macromolecules. We're going to create macromolecules. But what are we going to use? Chemo is chemical. Well, why wouldn't everything use photosynthesis? Isn't that easier? Well, who would be in a place where they don't have access to the sun? Yeah, organisms that live in the deep ocean. So if you are an organism that lives down by the deep sea thermal vents, you don't have any sunlight, but you've got lots of chemicals. And so deep sea organisms will often do chemosynthesis. There's also types of bacteria that live in hostile environments that can do chemosynthesis. But we're creating those macromolecules, and a lot of times it's carbs. And these macromolecules become the base of our energy period. So notice over here it says microbes. That's going to be things like bacteria. And over here we have like phytoplankton, which would be very small plants in the ocean. And then we go to consumers. Everybody else who can't do photosynthesis or chemosynthesis are called heterotrophs. So a heterotroph, Heterotroph, and we had these vocab words. So hetero means different, and troph is nutrition. Different. Troph is nutrition. They get their nutrition from different sources. So the zooplankton, the herring, the harbor seal, these are all heterotrophs. And over here, we've got a tube worm, a spider crab, and an octopus. Heterotrophs come in 3 types. We can have a carnivore, a herbivore, or an omnivore. And this straight up should be reviewed. Carnivores eat meat, herbivores eat plants, and that's an RE. And we are omnivores. We eat both plants and animals. So together, we are using that energy. So you're either creating these macromolecules based on energy from your environment, or you're consuming from the tier below you. But either way, we have energy that flows in and it flows up the food chain. Well, what's the point of this energy? All organisms use this compound. It's called ATP. Now, the long name for this is adenosine, ADENOSINE, triphosphate. And the only part of this I really need you to remember is the triphosphate. So we have this adenosine structure, and this is, we're going to learn this is a sugar. We're not too worried about this, but each P stands for phosphate. So I've got a P here, a P here, a P here. And in between these P's, I have lines that represent bonds. So this represents a bond between the phosphates. You'll notice it says for this first bond, so this is bond number 1, it says a lot of energy. Bond number 2 says some energy, and bond number 3 says a little bit of energy. When we come in here and we crack this bond, if I could reach down on the page and break this, what we would see is when I break this bond, we would get a great big crack, not literally, of course, kind of a little mini explosion, and we would release that energy. So we take in this nutrition and we turn it into ATP, which is basically, we take our, in this case, solar energy, and we turn it into chemical energy. Have you ever gone to an arcade like Chuck E. Cheese or Dave & Buster's and tried to play the machines with dollar bills? That doesn't work, does it? You have to have tokens. ATP are like the tokens of the body. Everything in a body, whether you're a bacteria, whether you're you, runs off of ATP. Now, we're going to see there's lots of other compounds that have a lot more energy than ATP. But ATP is the right shape, just like the coins are the right shape for the machines in the arcade. So this provides the energy for all of life's processes. So everything takes ATP. And where is that energy stored? It's stored in the bonds. It's when we break that bond, boom, we get that energy burst. Now, interestingly enough, it's triphosphate. Tri means 3, and I've got 1, 2, 3. So what happens if I crack this guy off? What am I left with? Well, I'm left with 2-phosphate. What's the prefix for 2? Did you say di? So if I crack this bond, then I have ADP, which stands for adenosine diphosphate. What would happen if I cracked this bond and I left 1 phosphate left? Then I would have AMP, or adenosine monophosphate. So this is triphosphate, I go down to di, and then I go down to mono, but it's this first bond that's got all the energy that we want. So to be alive, our takeaways here are you've got to get energy in, and let me back up just a second here and add. So this is the original source for energy. This is our original energy source over here. Original energy source. And over here, the chemicals are the energy source, the original energy source. For chemosynthesis. So if you're you and you're a vegetarian, you're eating all plants, your original energy source was the sun, you're turning sun energy, solar energy into chemical energy for use in your body. If you're an octopus, you might be eating something that used chemosynthesis, and you're going from one kind of chemical energy to another kind of chemical energy. And here we're building up. So we're building here. Another thing I'd like to add. And over here, when we break those bonds, we're talking about breaking down. And we'll do a lot more detail on this later. So over here, we're breaking down. By breaking down the ATP. All right, that's characteristic number 3. That's all for now.